You are listening to the Why Smart Women podcast, the podcast that helps smart women work out why we repeatedly make the wrong decisions and how to make better ones. From relationships, career choices, finances, to faux fur jackets and kale smoothies. Every moment of every day, we're making decisions. Let's make them good ones. I'm your host, Annie McCubbin, and as a woman of a certain age, I've made my own share of really bad decisions. Not my husband. I don't mean him, though. I did go through some shockers to find him. And I wish this podcast had been around to save me from myself. This podcast will give you insights into the working of your own brain, which will blow your mind. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which I'm recording and you are listening on this day. Always was, always will be, Aboriginal land. Well, hello, smart women, and welcome back to this week's episode of the Why Smart Women podcast. This week, I am talking to my favourite debunker of disinformation hero, the Snarky Gherkin, who's had some very interesting times recently with social media. So we're going to have a chat. For those of you that are listening to this from other parts of the world, this may be a fairly parochial chat, but I do know that the dynamics that we encounter in the Australian culture are definitely relevant to whatever culture you are currently residing in. So for all those people that are in Europe or the States or Canada, I'm sorry if you're in the States. I'm truly sorry if you're in the States. Actually, I'm quite sorry if you're in Canada too. Anyway, for all of those of you who are listening from other parts of the world, welcome. And please enjoy my chat with the Snarky Gherkin. Hello, Snarky.
Hi, Annie. Thanks for inviting me back on.
Oh, my pleasure. It's always, whenever you come on, I get a real bump. Lots of people go, oh, the Snarky Gherkin's on. I must listen to that episode. So I'm always very happy to have you on the podcast. And we have interesting times here in Australia, do we not, Snarky?
We do. There's lots of concurrent things happening all at once, and it's hard to kind of keep your head wrapped around it all. I've had a couple of messages even lately saying, "Why are you commenting on this and that?" It's like I just can't comment on everything. So
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's all go.
And Hannah Gadsby, I was reading her yesterday, and she was saying that she just hasn't engaged with social media because of her mental health for years. And I was like, I'd really like that. I would like to disengage from social media for my mental health, because I often notice I'm sort of okay, and then I read something like the March for Australia, and then I get a real bump in my anxiety, and I'm like, why am I listening to this? But then I think to myself, I sort of have to, because I feel part of a community that is pushing back against the madness. So it's a difficult. I find it's difficult, don't you think, to sort of balance listening to it, but not getting so engaged in it that I want to lie down under a doona for 5 years and wait for it all to stop.
You want to be, we're part of the zeitgeist to some extent, especially in some communities, and it's almost like you feel like you have a duty to not necessarily have a hot take on everything, but definitely feel a responsibility to be aware of what's going on. And it's a hard one.
Hard. Yeah. And it must be hard for you, because I know that you've got other things going on in your life. You have, the normal complexities and pressures on you that any normal person does. And yet you're quite prolific, I find. So that must be quite a hard balance for you, yes?
Yeah, sometimes. I think it'll probably all collapse in a fiery heap at some point. But for now, I quite enjoy it, get a buzz off it, and like learning new things as well. I set out sometimes to come with a certain opinion, and when I'm looking into it, as they say, I learn new things and sometimes change that perspective. And that's what I love about the community. Sometimes they help change and shape my perspective as well. So
that's the nature. That's the nature of critical thinking, is it not?
Yeah.
That not only do we interrogate ideas that come into our sphere, but we also interrogate our own thinking and our own assumptions. And that I find is the hardest thing to do, is actually to interrogate my own thinking.
Yeah,
Because
that's it.
because often we have the biggest response, I think, to the most febrile issues. And then once you have that strong emotional response, I think it's very, very difficult to resile from your position on that. And yet we must do that if we are to remain critical thinkers, yes?
That's exactly right. Just a reference yesterday, there was someone had sent me a private message of somebody who in the previous March for Australia I don't even know which one it was. It was one of the
Hang on,
marches.
just unpack. Let's just in case someone's just joining hasn't listened to us before. Do you just want to unpack what March for Australia is?
Oh, so they're basically it's just a far right anti-immigration list of other sort of incoherent grievances, and they've just, I mean, over the last sort of 6 months, 8 months, it's just mutated into just something insane. And so it's basically we've spoken in depth about the Cooker Wars, about how then there was a splinter group, and there's about 4 splinter groups now from that. But they're periodically having marches about, it's just recreational outrage at this point. And so someone sent me a photo of someone, and they're like, "Oh no, this." So I made an update, because I've been capturing a chronology of all the marches throughout 2025, and I'm continuing through 2026, just because. Just so they can't turn around in 6 months and say, we had 1 million people come to sit, where really there's like 400. And so there was one of the images I used. Someone said, "Oh, no, that image isn't from a few months ago. That's actually from 2015. Because here's the photo. He's a photo from, not exactly the same photo, but it was the same person at a far right rally." And I just thought to myself, anyway, we confirmed that actually the image I had used was recently from a few months ago, and this other image was from from the Herald Sun back in 2015. And I just thought to myself, how sad that this person for the last 11 years or 10 years hasn't changed his views or perspective at all. Like, if I think back to back in 2015, I probably cringe at some of the
me too
opinions, and in 2035 I'll probably cringe at some of the posts I'm making now. But that's all about the growth and the learning and challenging yourself, and it just this poor chap, I thought, oh, what a shame. And what a shame for everyone around him who has to insufferably listen to the same
listen to
rhetoric.
it. Well,
do you know what I mean?
We do know that identity protective cognition, especially if you are which is the strong and fervent need to belong to a group, is very, very prevalent. If you feel disenfranchised, if you feel that you don't belong, if you feel you've been left behind, it's very difficult to absent yourself from a group if that group is offering you something, and what they're offering you is a vehicle and an outlet for your general dissatisfaction and anger, right?
That's right.
So what happened, was it like a week and a half ago, that some people began messaging me going, "What's happened to the Snarky Gherkin? We can't find him." What happened?
Yeah, it's been a crazy whirlwind. So there isn't much of a backstory other than just logged on. I'd been receiving for a couple of weeks some strange notifications, and then when I had gone to see them through the Creative Hub or whatever it's called on Facebook, it would refresh and disappear. So it would be things like, "Your page is no longer recommended." And then I'd click on it, and then it would say, "No, it's recommended." And so there's some sort of glitchy, kind of weird things happening. And about, I think it's 5 days ago, I went to make a post. It'd been fine all day, and then it just said, "Your page has been unpublished." And so I reached out to the Meta. Well, it had asked me for ID when it was unpublished. It said to republish your page, please provide ID. I've already provided ID in the past because I was invited to the verification program, so I had a little fancy blue tick, which I thought was quite smug in that regard.
Cool.
Cool. And with that comes allegedly comes enhanced support. I've had some issues before where where Meta have actually phoned me, and we've just talked through some bits and pieces on so because I've received death threats and things, and I've reported them, and they've called me to talk about those and
All
stuff.
right, so just let me intervene for a second. So for those of
Mm,
you that aren't familiar with Snarky, he has a cartoon Gherkin,
mm,
and he comments on issues and tries, or he doesn't try, he debunks disinformation,
yeah,
but in a way that is amusing, that's articulate, that has a strong narrative feel about it. So, because we're involved in this sort of pseudo war with people that are spreading dangerous disinformation, we have to continually find ways to cut through the noise. And I think that the Snarky Gherkin has cut through the noise and has a pretty impressive following now, because the Gherkin is
mm.
just sort of interesting and funny and
Well,
relevant.
it started more as a sort of like there's a couple of reasons. It was just to protect my identity, not that I'm an interesting person, but just
I think
just
you
in
are.
terms of maybe I am, but I'm no unimportant. But it
Yeah.
was more about just and secondly, it's not about me, so it's not about putting my face front and center,
No, and I wouldn't
which
be if
people
I were
that do
you.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. But it's also just a bit of a watermark as well. Like the character, but it sort of has morphed into its own thing, and so it's people love it. They resonate with it. They think he's quite handsome. I like to think that
He is
tried
a
to
very handsome Gherkin, and I really
very
like him when
snazzy.
he's snazzy.
Yeah,
And when he sits there with a
yeah,
scotch on a Friday night, I'm like, yeah, bring it on, bring on the
yeah.
weekend.
Nice.
I'm with the
Yeah, yeah.
snark. Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
So, so more or less, Meta asked for a photo ID, which it happily uploaded because I've done it before, and
hmm
so it then just said thank you for that, etc., etc. And I thought, oh, this will just be a little issue that'll be no
Resolved.
doubt sorted in no time. And then I get a sort of a semi auto response to say that the page will remain unpublished due to impersonation. And so I've reached out to Meta support. Now it's quite funny because, or it's interesting because in the past there's like this big Meta support button, and they go out of their way to make it sort of make themselves contactable again. They've phoned me in the past multiple times, and we've
They've
talked
actually
through
phoned you.
issues.
Hang on,
They've actually
Meta
phoned me.
have
Yep,
actually rung
yep,
you on a telephone, and a
that's
real person
that's
has
correct.
spoken to you.
That's correct, multiple
Oh,
times. And so,
wow.
but suddenly that support button was nowhere to be found. And I was like, how did I get there last time? And so I ended up having to log on to a desktop, and I eventually found a way to ask for support. So the short version of a long story is, just to add to that as well, we'd had some community members who have embedded themselves in various different anti-vax and conspiracy groups. They had some screenshots from about 5 or 6 people that said, haha, we got him, because they'd just been mass reporting the page constantly because
Oh,
they don't
okay.
have any
So,
counter argument.
our what's happened is our the people that the bodies, the people, the individuals, the groups that
Mm,
spread the very dangerous misinformation, medical, cultural, social
mm,
misinformation. They've actually, so what we've got is members of our sort of skeptical network, and the
yeah.
skeptical network has embedded people. It's like the Cold War.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. And they've
It's
no
like the
doubt got
Cold War.
members in our group. But yeah,
Yeah, it's like this.
that's right.
This is like they've embedded somebody in Berlin, right? It's really,
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah,
So they embed themselves, and then these members of the skeptical group have embedded themselves, and then have noticed that the anti the disinformation groups. I'm just going to call them that broadly. The cookers
yeah,
have out to get you, Snarky, because you must be a threat to them.
yeah. It shatters their worldview. The whole community does, not just me. But and so had a really engaging conversation with the original person at Meta. And so I've said, I'm clearly the target here of a mass reporting campaign. It's obviously triggered the bots or the AI algorithm, and it's
Yeah.
been flagged. Again,
Yeah.
quite naively thinking this will just get sorted because, I'm a verified member, and surely they'll sort of. And so they were thankful. Oh, thanks for, initially, thanks for those screenshots, Will. And they have taken them up separately, and at least two of them, those accounts have been suspended or they're gone. So I don't know what the outcome of that is.
Right.
But then they just said, but sorry, but the page is still impersonation. So it's now been escalated 4 times to
What? To who?
and
Oh my
to well
God.
and just this next person then overnight, wake up at sort of wake up in the morning, and at 2 a.m. there's an email or message to say, hi, we've reviewed it further with the, I don't know, insert manager name here,
Yeah.
and we're maintaining that it's impersonation, and we'll, that's that. And so
Hang on,
it's
maybe do you think they're now in discussion with the White House about it? Like
I don't
maybe
know.
they've really escalated it.
I won't go too into this. I don't want to get too conspiratorial, but I have been approached by an actual MP, and I've also been approached by some other really smart people who I'm really humbled have thought
Is that truly? Is that truly,
Yeah,
really,
truly.
really?
So they have a liaison at Meta apparently, and they're going to see if they can raise it with them. No promises.
Do you know what? I find that because often I just feel quite defeated by the enormity, the tsunami that we are facing. And so that makes me feel quite optimistic that actually someone's got it in, the ear of somebody important. Because otherwise, I don't know, to me, it just feels impenetrable.
Well, I feel sorry for and nothing's come of it yet. They're going to raise it. And if nothing else, they'll just raise some dissatisfaction. But I'm not expecting, they said realistically there's probably a 10 or 20% chance that it'll sort of move the needle. But so, as of today, final update, they just said, like, I can even read out the message. They've said, we reviewed the page. There's a long chain of messages, but just the crux of it. So, and this isn't me stuttering or anything. This is just reading word for word. So they're saying, I see you've been doing great with the page. The process is totally handled by the system. I wish I can provide you with an exact time, but it depends on when if the system recognizes your page is working with our guidelines, the process will be faster. What? If you're still using your account as you have been, I can assure you that the reinstatement will be very soon. Several lines down, I do not wish to create false expectations, but the account has been permanently restricted. And so they just can't, and there's nothing further to be said. So they're saying that actually, they even say, we're actually, you're doing a great job with the page,
but it's
or you did a great
cancelled.
job with the page. And I can see that if you continue doing what you're doing, that there's, you've done nothing wrong, or can see what you're doing. If you keep doing what you're doing, there shouldn't be any problems and the page will be reinstated, i.e. the nature of the posts I've been making. But then
a paragraph later.
Yeah, paragraph. But just to set your expectations, it's probably just going to stay permanently deleted. So
that sounds like AI and sort of English as a second language, a combination, doesn't it?
We had a lot of dialogue beforehand that I think was genuinely human. English is a second language most likely, but we'd had some proper dialogue, and it wasn't AI responses in my view. The last bit does read like AI, but so it's just a real shame. So for me, it was a bit. I was going to take a social media break for a month or so and think, stuff it. But my wife was quite encouraging. She's like, "No, get back on.
Keep going, keep going.
Just keep going. Don't let the bees win. So she was quite encouraging on that regard.
From my perspective, when a couple of people messaged me and said, "Do you know what's happened?" And this is only people I know online, right? Yeah. So I don't know these people personally, and so then I was like, I don't. And then I noticed that I'm blocked by Pete Evans and
Yeah.
Batshit Crazy Cookers had also said that we're asked where you were. And then it was
Yeah.
when I put on, I think it was Batshit Crazy Cookers, I said, where are you? Because it was
Yeah.
really, it's interesting from a psychological point of view as well, that there's something about when you only have contact with somebody in this online environment, when
Yeah.
suddenly you can't access them. And
Yeah. It's quite daunting. Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
really quite, I felt quite weird and quite
Yeah.
daunted and quite almost like panicky. And then,
Yeah.
and then I said, just message me directly. And then you did. And
Yeah.
then I looked at it and thought, how do I know? How
Yeah.
do I know
Yeah.
this is you? And then I'm in that whole, ooh, I'm like looking at my phone and you going, it is actually me. And me going, but what if it's not? And maybe someone's trolling me. And oh my
Yeah,
God, it got so
here's the
complicated.
secrets. This is what you said about your husband last time we spoke, so you
Yeah,
know it's me. Or
yeah,
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 no,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's it.
yeah,
But no, it's true. It was this real sense of loss in the sense that like there are hundreds of people that there are thousands of people, frankly, that I adore in that community, and hundreds I speak to regularly, and there's dozens that I consider really close to, and for it to have been nuked, it was hard to. I was like, how do I get the message out to a broader audience? Now, the admins of Batshit Crazy Cookers, they're amazing, and so through
yeah. They're great.
a
They're great. They're
back
great.
channel, they're like, hey, what's going on? And so they've got the message out. So immediately, I started a new page
Yeah,
called
I
Mr.
know.
Cucumber,
Yeah,
and the response to that's been overwhelming. But 18,000 people in 3 days of following it now, and so I'd say that's probably, even though we had about 48,000 originally, I'd
yeah,
say the 18,000 are the real engaged people. So there's probably lots of people that followed that sort of maybe thought a post was interesting, but aren't necessarily engaged. But it's a real core group is back to following again. So I'm tremendously privileged in that regard. The issue is, though, is I suspect there's nothing stopping it from happening again,
yeah.
because if they think, well,
That's right.
yeah, now an interesting perspective that someone in the media who reached out to me in provided me is that a theory that is probably, I mean, it's still ridiculous, but the system could be determining that because it's named itself after a pretend individual,
Yeah.
that's why it might be thinking I'm impersonating Snarky Gherkin, or I don't quite understand. So I've created a sub page, which will eventually be the main page on Facebook, called the Pickle Perspective, and so it's more aimed as an opinion
Oh, pickle
style
perspective.
sort of.
Good.
Yeah, so rather than pretending to be a character or a persona, I mean, it's still doing that, but the focus is just it's more of a perspective or opinion page. But
Yeah.
I still don't feel safe on it. So it's completely shattered my perception. I knew Facebook was baked anyway, but I thought there'd be some level of coherence. There'd be mistakes, but we could no doubt talk our way through it with with
Well, yeah, I
administrative
would have
people
thought. I
and
would have thought.
yeah.
And as I sort of trawl around the cookerverse as I do daily, and see that Monica Schmidt is roaming about New Zealand,
Yeah, yeah,
spreading her ridiculous message of, I don't know, don't get vaccinated,
yeah,
and don't talk to people that aren't white, and close
yeah,
the
yeah,
borders, and whatever mental stuff she wants to do. She's still up. Dave
yeah,
Onig, with his the government is trying to poison us
yeah,
with the aeroplanes. He's
yeah.
still up.
Oh, there's all sorts. It's revolting. Like,
It's
but
revolting.
yeah, and so they've relied on. I mean, and they've not even adhered to their own.
So how do they
So
get through? How do they get through? That's my point. How come?
well, I don't know. I think it's just a case of like it's they feed the algorithm with just recreational rage, and so I mean their actual faces are on there, but I think there are millions of pages on Facebook that aren't that a persona is, is a McDonald's an actual golden arch? No, it's a business. Or, the Teenage Ninja Turtles, like they're not actually Ninja Turtles. Like it's a persona. So I don't know how they stay on it. I don't know. I mean, it's just,
Oh,
they've been
so is it
blocked.
just that they show their faces?
Well, it might be. So the person who reached
I
out
don't
to
want to
me,
see their faces, just so you know. I
well,
could
that's
live
right.
without
Yeah,
it.
that's it.
I wish
That's
they
it. So
did have a persona. Yeah.
somebody had highlighted and that perhaps it was because it was a made up persona, which is the issue. But again, it's not an issue on that platform because there's millions of pages that are characters and personas, and
100%.
so yeah. So I don't know. So it's actually, I'm thankful in some ways. It's still a little bit daunting and a bit clunky and getting used to it. But for many months, lots of people have said to me, please go onto different platforms, go to Bluesky, go to Substack,
Yeah,
go
Substack, yeah.
to other platforms. So Substack I've always thought was a bit daunting, a bit sort of hoity-toity, but I've started a page there that I think is going to be I want it to be the main hub. And
Yeah.
again, just really overwhelmed with the response. Like there's 6,000 people have flocked there. A lot of them have opened an account for that purpose.
Yeah.
I've wrote a few insufferable Substacks, I think you call them. It's not going to be the main core of what I do, but they're more long form pieces.
Well, they
a little
are,
bit
because
different.
remember when remember the what's her name from the vaccination network?
Oh, that's it. Meryl or something. Yeah,
Yeah, her.
Meryl. Yeah,
Meryl Dory,
yeah.
who's a very, very dangerous anti-vaxxer, and has been an anti-vaxxer and has been spreading disinformation for a really long time. She wrote a very long Substack
Yeah.
about you and I, did she not?
She did. I forgot about those. I'll have to try to find them because she was desperate for me then to either fly.
Meet in a car park. She wanted to
for a
meet in a
debate.
car park, yeah.
She wanted to debate or come onto her Substack and reply to her Substack through my Substack, blah, blah, blah. And so for me, it's just like, no, you just want to drive engagement, and I'm not going to do that. But I will probably not seek that out, to be honest with her. It was
No.
it was very much I have a friend who was injured by a vaccine, and let me come on a podcast with my friend, and you tell them that what they experienced wasn't. It's like perfectly, okay.
Well, the thing is, what we know is that any of those sort of anti-vax viewpoints are all based on singular anecdotal evidence, made up or not. And unfortunately, also what we know is that in terms of purchase in the brain, one person's sad story has far more purchase, efficacy, and stickiness than data, which is why they continue to do what they do. People love a story. We're configured to hear a story. So someone comes on and goes, I was reading someone yesterday going, my 2-year-old was, wonderful and, writing a dissertation or something. And then they got vaccinated and now they're rocking in the corner. So, everyone goes, oh no, that's terrible. But of course, it's not true. It's not scientific, but it has cut through, which is why I won't debate them, because the platform it's unfair, and the false equivalency drives me crazy. I get lots of offers to come and put their viewpoint on the podcast, and I won't do it. Because I know they're going to come out with some frigging sob story and people are going to go, oh, that's really sad. And then I'm left going, yes, but if you look at the data around the COVID vaccination and and it just doesn't, it's just not the same.
You have to be and in a way, it's like dealing with someone hysterical is, I've always thought, well, let's wait till they calm down. From a customer relations perspective, it's like, well, we'll wait for that person to calm down before we'll discuss the issues. But in this anti-vax space, it's a perpetual state of hysteria, and
it's permanent.
And then you have to be the hard-ass adult and say, well, okay, but these are the facts, and this isn't, and it just doesn't. The way it's almost socially engineered, like it's stacked in favor of the hysterical story.
100%. 100%. It's the way our brains work. Unfortunately, we are up against our own neurology.
Yeah.
It will always go for the story. And I think, I don't know if I've spoken since we had the skeptics in the pub panel,
Yeah. Tell us more about that.
just
We haven't
before
spoken
Christmas.
verbally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So it was, Richard Saunders, Kate Thomas, Sue Arachi, Jessica Saunders, the president of the Australian Skeptics, etc., etc. Lara Benham was convening, me, and we had a really good panel, and then we got to the end and said, any questions, and then this woman from the audience, launched at us and just began, she started off trying to sound reasonable about it, but then it just deteriorated in this sort of hysterical rant. And then why didn't we go and talk to some doctor that lives in the eastern suburbs because he knows the truth about the RNA vaccinations? And why don't we? How do we feel about the fact that her neighbour's son can no longer play football since the vaccination? All that really anecdotal, intense, hysterical stuff. And then she said we ought to be ashamed of ourselves, and how could we live with ourselves? And we called ourselves skeptics, and we just sort of sat there. Yeah. And then she went
It's
on.
almost like she represents. It's like the way you've described it is like a micro view of the misinformation funnel. So it does start off sounding semi-reasonable.
Well, she said she was a journalist. She said, I am a journalist. Yeah.
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 And then it
that's
descends
right.
into this chaos, and it's garbled nonsense. Like and it's so, and so we sort of sat there and, briefly, Paul Gallagher, who's from the Melbourne Skeptics, has written a piece about it. We sort of sat there for a bit, and then, I think Richard had a small shot at trying to have a reasoned discussion with her. But she just ramped. It was so ramped. In the end, I just said, look, is there anybody with an actual question? And then we sort of closed it down. And then she sort of sat there. So if you honestly, the waves of rage coming off her. She would have had that monologue. Yeah, she's said that monologue 100 times.
Yeah.
That's it. Like it's not a.
Yeah, exactly. And then my son, he's a lawyer with legal aid, so he's sort of used to dealing, I think, with people that are a little bit disenfranchised, a bit angry. Anyway, so bless him, he sat with her and tried to have a sort of reasoned discussion. Which didn't go very well. And and then at one point I walked past her and I must have slightly tapped the end of her foot, and she said, look, why don't you just kick me in the leg? I was like, okay.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So then,
I'll have to fly up to Sydney for the next one. Sounds like a riot.
It's a riot. So then that happened, and then we left, we all left, and then she sort of stomped off in the other direction. My son thought maybe she was going back to Melbourne. It could be your fault because she sort of headed in that direction. Yeah. Anyway, and then the next, so that happened, and then we reported on it, and then Paul Gallagher wrote an article on it, and And then the last skeptics in the pub, everyone was away, and Richard Saunders, I think, and Jessica, and these are the stalwarts of the Australian Skeptics, turned up, and she was there again.
Okay.
She was there waiting for them again. And apparently she apologised, I think, for the hysteria, but had a whole lot of books with her that she sort of laid out, like this this collection of books that were about how COVID was fake and we'd locked down for nothing, and I don't know, anti-germ theory or something. I don't know, some weird collection of books. And Richard was sort of stuck there because we weren't there, and Jessica had to rescue him. But the thing is, she apologised for the hysteria, but had not resiled 1% from her position, which is back to our initial point, which is people just get stuck going
Yeah.
round and round and round and round, their brains mowing down the same neural pathway. And the more they do it, the deeper it gets, and the neural pathways just get less and less possible to be impacted by
Yeah.
actually reasoned argument. So we all sort of sat there going, well, I don't know what to do with it. And I don't, the thing is, because, you know, people are nicer than me, and they were like, well, maybe she's, you know, had a really, you know, difficult background. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just pull
Oh,
yourself together. Yeah,
there'll
yeah,
be some trigger like I don't know who it is, but you'll find that it's like before like back in 2018 she got divorced or something, and then
yeah,
it's
exactly.
like this whole, or she got made redundant in 2020, and you know that was her safety net sort of gone. But I've listened to podcasts before about when people leave cults and you know or you know like Scientology and things like that, and I think it's very much something that strikes me in a lot of those conversations. It's the realization that like 20 years of my life, or 20 years of service to this thing, to then come to the realization that it was all nonsense. It's the hardest part. And so I think there's very much the same psychology. So if you imagine,
Yeah, I
if you
do.
know, for the last 5 years, or coming on to 6 years now since the pandemic started in Australia,
Yeah,
well, yeah, almost 6 years. Like for her to turn around and think she's no doubt probably stopped being invited to extended family gatherings,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know, or you know, she's probably alienated and isolated a lot of friends and family. To
yeah.
actually snap out of it and come to that realization that actually shit, like it would be hard, it would be devastating.
Well, it'd be
But
humiliating, wouldn't it?
it
You'd
would
be
be, it,
really,
it would,
really
yeah,
humiliated because you'd have
um,
to look at the quality of your own thinking. And you know,
yeah,
as we, you know, and I've repeatedly said on the podcast, you know, we make decisions in the emotional part of our brains and post rationalize it in the prefrontal
mm,
cortex. So everything they say is
yeah,
a post rationalizing. And two, I can see it in the faces of people when I sometimes engage in these discussions in real life, which I often don't, because honestly, it just exhausts me. I'm like,
yeah.
do I have to go back to square one with this?
We
Honestly.
do it. We do it in all aspects of life in a small level too, like whether you're at work or a meeting, and it's always afterwards at 2 in the morning. You think, oh, I should have said this,
I
or I
should
should,
have said
because
that.
again, it's when the frontal cortex then kicks in and you actually
Yeah.
think about it logically. But I think with a lot of these people, the frontal cortex never kicks in for some reason, and or it does,
Well,
but it
it
misfires.
does
I don't know.
it does kick in, but all it does is justify the emotional
Hmm.
the emotional state of the limbic system. So it's there they're
Okay.
using the prefrontal cortex is doing its job. It's just I always think about it like you know, the press secretary, you know, Donald Trump does something completely nutsy, right? And
Yeah.
then the press secretary has to come out and justify the completely
Yeah.
nutsy behavior. And that's the way I see it. I see the limbic system as Donald Trump and the prefrontal
Yeah.
cortex as his press secretary, constantly having to defend these weird and wacky notions. And it's very, very difficult, to the point we made earlier, to interrogate your prefrontal cortex and your belief system when the limbic system is so emotional. Back to that idea of so many of these discussions that we have online or in person, there's just a barely repressed sense
Yeah.
of hysteria, because of course there has to be,
I
because of the
notice
right.
the same. Yeah, that I notice the same in like in a lot of conservative groups and subreddits and things where they try, like you said, like Trump does something and it's breaking people's minds with the whole. We won't go into this, but
Yeah, but
around
yeah,
the whole
we'll do that
Greenland
next
thing,
time. We'll
and
talk about
next
that, huh?
time,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, but the whole Greenland thing, and they've always for the last like couple of years I always see them try to sane explain what it
yeah.
is that he's
Oh,
really
that's
doing,
good. That's
or
good.
yeah, or it's really 4D chess. So what he's actually means about Greenland is he's really signaling to President
Yeah,
Xi, don't think about
yeah.
invading Taiwan. You know, it's this sort of like, but they're baffled about this. That they can't say, even they're like, this isn't what we want to like. What is he doing? So it's I don't know. Some people are starting to wake up. I don't want to sound like a cooker, but
Yeah.
it's fascinating seeing the mental gymnastics in trying to explain
The
the
madness.
insane, the madness, and make sane of the insane. You know, it's
Yeah, yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
So
yeah. It is a very, it's a very interesting, sort of devastatingly dreadful process to watch. And of course, we're all guilty of it in our own spheres, right? Not interrogating our thinking enough, don't you think?
That's right. We're all guilty of it. We all fall into the trap. It's easy to do it, and so yeah, that's right. Like we said, touched on before, there's no doubt views I have now that I'll change on in due course. I do change my views from time to
Yeah,
time when presented with different information. I think it's important to know what we don't know and just concede certain things. We don't have to know everything, and I think that's
yeah, that's
what we've
right.
become afraid of acknowledging these days is that that yeah, I don't know, and it's okay to say I don't know. I admire public figures and politicians when they just say don't know. We'll look into it and
Yeah,
we'll try to work it out
but the problem is if a
yeah,
politician changes their mind, they're accused of flip-flopping.
yeah, that's right.
So the human brain and our general approach is, we like certainty. We want to know. Trump came out yesterday and said, I am a dictator and you need to
Mm,
be. And I think we'll get into Trump next time, but there is
yeah,
something about that strongman certainty that is appealing to people because we don't like complexity and we don't like nuance. We want
yeah.
everything to be clear cut, simple. And whenever I'm going on talking on a YouTube channel next week called Recovering from Religion,
Oh yeah,
and yeah. And I'm talking about the whole wellness gurus on it, and
yeah.
because it's spiritual gurus and wellness gurus, because they've all got a lot of purchase in people's brains, especially women's brains. And
I've
go
yeah, I
on,
got down
go
the
on.
rabbit hole on a few spiritual healers, but anyway, too
Oh,
busy giving you yeah.
who? Spiritual healers, I love them.
There's two. There's called Shay someone, and he was a chiropractor that
Oh yeah,
realized that he doesn't need to touch
no,
physically
no,
because
no, of course not.
because God is through
God,
him,
yeah,
and he does. There's this thing. It's an old carny folk trick where you lay down and your legs are uneven because of your spine's out of balance, but then he does this sort
thing,
of
yeah.
Soul Shay, I think his name is,
Oh,
and
I'll look him up. I
he's
love
got
them.
this weird ASMR quality
Oh,
about the way he does it, and it's quite funny because the irony is he does things for like sleep apnea and insomnia and stuff, but he's got this big cult sort of ASMR unintentional ASMR following, not because they believe anything he's doing is
do you want
correct,
to
but just
unpack? Do you want to unpack ASMR?
a
What?
bit. I'm curious about it. I don't follow it, but I don't know much about it, but I know it's on the periphery because it's just so big. It's like, and so the irony is that his videos actually do cure people, help people with insomnia because he sends them to sleep with this weird
The
thing. So
sound, because ASMR is sound, right? Isn't it? Or it's this weird sound thing,
I
isn't
think
it?
so. It's also I think there's a visual aspect to it too.
Yeah.
There has to
Oh,
be
it's
because
weird. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it'd be some. I've always assumed some lizard part of our brain, is it
Yeah, that's
that doesn't.
incorrect. That's
Yeah.
that's correct. That's correct. Yeah, and
Can you
he's
elaborate
probably
on that? Or
no, not
no?
really. I don't know. To our earlier point, I don't know enough about it. I will do some more
Yeah.
investigation on ASMR. Stuff constantly comes up on my feed about it, but some of the visual
Yeah.
images make me feel a bit sick. I don't like looking at
It's
it. So
odd. Yeah.
it's really odd.
Yeah.
It's really odd, but it would definitely be a limbic system. It would be a limbic system
It does
reset.
help a lot of people though. I've
Yeah.
spoken to people at work and other bits to where they're like, was having, I don't need sleeping tablets now because I fall asleep listening to ASMR or whatever, and it's like, oh great, if
Okay.
that works for you.
Well,
But
you
yeah,
see, then
yeah,
we'd need evidence on it because
yeah.
then you've got correlation and causation.
But even
Does
if
it?
it's just placebo, like they think it's sending these neuron waves are sending them to sleep or something. That
Yeah,
maybe that's okay. Like,
yeah,
but
maybe.
yeah, yeah.
It depends if people start is coming out saying it cures cancer, then we're in trouble, right?
Oh, yeah. Or no, don't go to the doctor. Go watch this
Go and
ASMR
get
video.
some
And of
ASMR.
course,
Yeah,
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 that's where the line draws. But if they find comfort, it's like what we say about chiropractors to some degree. It's like, yeah, a lot of it's wooey, but if people find genuine
Well,
relief from
except
it.
if people have strokes. Yeah,
What do you mean?
there's been
From it?
people from chiropractic adjusting the neck.
Yeah. See, my father's warned me. I like those, the shopping center sort of massage places where they crack your back and stuff. I love those places, and my father keeps telling me he's read horror stories about
Yeah,
people that get
100%.
it and they can't walk and they,
Yeah,
they'll slip a
100%.
disc. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
go often, but it's just,
I'd be avoiding that. Just don't let. It's fine. Just don't let them near your neck. One of my very, very first podcasts was with a woman that I'd actually taught a. Facilitated a program for executive women, and then
yeah.
she'd heard that I did a podcast, and she said, "Can I talk about this?" And she came on, and she'd had a neck adjustment, and had a stroke as a result of it.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And then it's this very specific area of the neck, and it had taken her a really long time to
Yeah.
recover. And then of course they looked at what the hell is that? Then they looked at the data around it, and strokes from incorrect. Oh man, sorry. I've now got.
So there was a noticeable correlation between
Oh, there's a
post.
noticeable. Yeah, yeah. And I've
Yeah.
got to be very careful because I'm not saying.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But
People, I mean,
there's a
yeah.
note. There is an absolute. They will say, if you talk to errant chiropractors, they will say that it is not true, that the person was just going to have a stroke anyway. But there's very, very strong evidence that the neck incorrectly adjusted can definitely lead to strokes, and it's quite well evidenced. So be careful.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
But back
Okay.
to that
So,
notion that you don't stop going to stop going to those places in shopping malls. Just I don't know, just get a back massage.
yeah,
or
no, I
something.
will. I will. I do have a fascination in spiritual healers at the moment, though, but I can't take it on my plate because I've just got too much
No,
on
don't, no,
already.
no, no.
But
There's too much. There's too
this
much.
this is a non-snarky go. Like it's my own private. I just have a weird fascination in it. It's hard to explain, but
Oh, I love it.
yeah,
That
yeah,
and cults.
yeah,
I'm so into
yeah,
spiritual healers and
yeah.
cults. And that's what I'm going to
'Cause
be talking about when I go onto recovering from religion, because of course people see, they think about religion and they think of it in relation to the classic religions, but of course you can get co-opted into a spiritual environment and absolutely lose your way.
yeah,
Absolutely, 100%. And it can be. This is the thing I've never got, is that people eschew the idea of God, and yet
mm,
happily say to me, well, the universe is providing me with that, or the universe wanted this to happen, or, the universe is doing this and that. I'm like, well, what's the difference? It's still some other entity or whatever
yeah.
that's controlling things. I don't get the difference, but apparently people feel better about it. I don't get it.
It's just feeling. It's almost, and again, whole other convo that I'm not probably. I don't know any more than the average Joe, but it's almost like and I don't know. This is probably a debate in itself, but we've had religion hardwired for so long. It just gets filled with something else once
100%.
we
We do not
search the
like
universe
the ultimate, the thing that
and that doesn't mean you're not a cooker. I'm not like it doesn't mean if you fill it with something
no,
else, it doesn't mean
no, 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 no,
it's on all
no,
sides, whether
no.
Mother Gaia fills in that void or it's the universe or it's the spaghetti monster. Yeah, who knows? It could be anything. But
It doesn't
yeah,
matter. That the underneath all of it is the deep discomfort that human beings have, that we are in a random universe. People don't like it, and I get that. It's not a nice feeling to have to confront the idea that this is just random and stuff
well,
happens.
it's hard to comprehend, isn't it? It's so vast and so chaotic and so
Yeah,
unlikely that it's just we can't
yeah.
compute it and
Sh-
stuff. So it's
we,
easier
we definitely
yeah,
we are searching for control and searching for agency, and
yeah,
so hyperactive agency detection is something that the human brain does, where we're looking for something that is causal. So what made that happen? Because it's so uncomfortable to think that it just happens. And I get
yeah,
that. I personally would really like to believe in something, but I absolutely cannot. It just makes, I just think we're here. We're just another species. We're roaming around. We have a short time on Earth. Stuff happens, and what we should be doing is just trying to lead a good life, do the right thing by other people, and get on with it. It's my opinion.
And leave the place a bit better than how we
leave
found
it better than you found it. So on that note of leaving it better than we found it, we will end that here because I think, could probably talk for 5 or 6 hours nonstop.
Probably.
So you are going to let me know when you are next available. And I think what we're going to do is do a bit of a deep dive into Trump and MAGA because it's so interesting. And I think it's worth our while. What do you think?
I think it is too. I love our discussions. I'd love to do them more frequently, and I think there's an appetite for them. We tend to get some nice feedback, and I'm stuttering less on these things, which is good. Becoming a little bit more comfortable, so that's good. I went to a 12, but I just went all googly eyed and think, oh, I'll look at this another day. But I had a history teacher friend of mine send me a graph of the polling from 1932 Weimar Republic, and it exactly coincides with Australia's current polling now. So it's like 32% centre, 14% far right, and all this. And he's like, and he's giving So I was like, he's like, do a post on this. It's like, nah, I might leave that for a while. But maybe we can delve in.
Yeah, I'd like to delve into that. That would be,
we can too. But it's more about why we are not on the same path as the Weimar Republic or something. It could be thanks to preferential voting or whatever. But yeah, we could chat for hours. If ever you're in Melbourne, or maybe I'll come to Sydney at some point, catch up. And,
I would then know what you looked like.
Well, it'd be green walking down. You can see. I'd have all sorts of tourists taking photos and stuff.
I would then have to, I don't know, have a meal opposite a large pickle. And what if I wanted to eat a pickle, like with my meal? Would that be like offensive to you if I ate a pickle? It'd be very
offensive, highly offensive in my culture. So
I would be culturally sensitive towards the pickle environment.
Would you eat a steak in front of a cow? I don't know if you.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, well, there you go.
I wouldn't eat duck in front of a duck.
That's it. So
I wouldn't, and I just want you to know that I will have that sensitivity if we ever actually meet in person. My pleasure.
Sounds good.
Well, I'm going to wrap this up. If you'd like to stay on the line for a minute, I'm going to say goodbye to my lovely listeners. Thank you so much, listeners, wherever you are in the world. I hope you enjoyed that fairly rambling but interesting chat, I think, with myself and the Snarky Gherkin. And as always, stay safe. Stay well. Keep your critical thought. Oh, fuck.
Don't edit that out. It sounds great.
It's real. Always, stay safe. Stay well. Keep your critical thinking hats on. See you later. Bye. Okay. Thanks for tuning into Why Smart Women with me, Annie McCubbin. I hope today's episode has ignited your curiosity and left you feeling inspired by my anti-motivational style. Join me next time as we continue to unravel the fascinating layers of our brains and develop ways to sort out the fact from the fiction and the over 6,000 thoughts we have in the course of every day. Remember, intelligence isn't enough. You can be as smart as paint, but it's not just about what you know, it's about how you think. And in all this talk of whether or not you can trust your gut, if you ever feel unsafe, whether it's in the street, at work, car park, in a bar, or in your own home, please respect that gut feeling. Staying safe needs to be our primary objective. We can build better lives, but we have to stay safe to do that. And don't forget to subscribe, rate and review the podcast and share it with your fellow smart women and allies. Together, we're hopefully reshaping the narrative around women and making better decisions. So until next time, stay sharp, stay savvy, and keep your critical thinking hat shiny. This is Annie McCubbin signing off from Why Smart Women. See you later. This episode was produced by Harrison Hess. It was executive produced and written by me, Annie McCubbin.